So today is a bit of a gray day, it's also raining, and since it's such a gray day and somebody was complaining in Discord that my videos don't have enough color in them, I'm using a different setting in the camera to have a color scheme that brings out more colors, makes them more vivid, hopefully. So I'm looking forward to hearing the feedback for this new video. Okay, back on topic. So I found this blog post. Making is show business now. So link to the blog post in the description, of course, and obviously you should read it and make up your own mind. But here's my take on this. So this blog post is connected to a book titled Working in Public. I'm still reading the book, so I won't comment on the book. But the blog post itself basically takes one point from the book. I'm halfway through, so I don't know precisely how much is from the blog post author and where the opinions from the book end and when the opinions from the blog post author begin. But I think I can make an educated guess given what I read from the book until now. So I think the most important word in the title is the final one. So making is show business now. And the idea is that it didn't used to be show business. So this blog post contrasts open source software development in the 90s, where when it used to be all community work, where there were these smaller communities where everybody was more active, more involved. While now, today, this is not anymore the case. Now, communities have become larger and there's way more people that are not as involved. And so you get a bunch of side effects from that. Let me read a couple of passages so that you can get an idea of what I'm getting at. So let's see. So unfortunately for maintainers, that collaborative mindset no longer reflects the reality. So this is the point where we are about to, the blog post is about to describe modern day open source development. And it starts with a quote from the book. So, however, in speaking to maintainers privately, I learned that initiatives to bring on more contributors cause them to seize with anxiety, because such initiatives often attract low quality contributions. This creates more work for maintainers. All contributions, after all, must be reviewed before they are accepted. Maintainers frequently lack infrastructure to bring these contributors into a contributor economy. In many cases, there is no community behind the project at all, only individual efforts. And then the blog post goes on. Yeah, let me read this second passage. So this is not from the book, this is the blog post itself. I mean, everything is a blog post, but the part before was a quote. Something important changed between the 90s and today. If you look at most open source projects now, the distribution of who's doing the work versus who's simply there is skewed dramatically. It's common to see projects where 95% of the work is done by a nucleus of people, perhaps even a single developer, with a long tail of contributors, in quotes, who are really more like users or consumers. They might offer occasional pull requests or flag some issues occasionally, but they're more like fans watching a football game than the main players. So this final passage is the bridge from the point that how open source has evolved until today, to the argument that since these people behave more like fans, project maintainers basically today are more like content creators. I don't have a problem with the core argument itself, but I am not sure I'm sold with the general tone that the blog has, the blog post has over this transition. More importantly, it seems to me that the way open source software development in the 90s is described is maybe slightly too rosy. Like, yeah, it must have been fun to participate in open source projects in the past. Smaller community, everybody's more involved, seems nice compared to having a huge public who doesn't really necessarily even like the project or care much, which has a ton of bad side effects, like a lot of more bike shedding probably, with bike shedding from people that really don't even care at the end of the day, which is, I think, the worst. And also nowadays you get more pull requests, and the pull requests also because it's easier to send out pull requests or patches, whatever, to changes to a project than it was in the past. Since now the barrier is lower, you get more low quality pull requests, and low quality pull requests are a problem because they are extra work, as the blog post was rightfully saying. So yeah, it must have been nice in the past to have like a smaller group of people. Everybody's more involved. Everybody's doing their fair share of work, whatever that might mean. Now, these times are not coming back, first of all. But also, yeah, we are trading some of that. But the question is, the real important question, in my opinion, is what are we getting in exchange? Because or not just what we are getting in exchange, but what can we get in exchange? Because as usual, things change. What was possible before might not be possible anymore today. And you always have people that like are nostalgic about the past, and they want the nice things that they had before to come back. But that thing is never going to come back. So what you have to do is to identify the new good things that you couldn't have before, and make them sure you exploit them as much as you can, because just like the past is never coming back again, you can see how induction should bring you to realize that the situation that is today, you better make the most out of it, because it's not coming back tomorrow once things change again. So what is it? Is it all bad? Is it really? Are we really just destined to have a worse open source collaborative experience, and that's it? I absolutely disagree with that. And by the way, maybe the blog post isn't really making that point, but I do believe that to be fair, it should have spent a few more words on the good aspect of the fact that making is becoming showbiz now. So let me say that yes, having low quality contributions to your project, it's a chore, it's not nice, but first of all, you as the maintainer of a project have full control over it. You decide what happens in your project. You design your experience. So if you want to have an open source project where you put the code on GitHub, you share your code with the world, but then you say, no, I'm not accepting any pull requests. I'm not looking at your pull requests. I'm not looking at your code. I'm not looking at issues even. You can do that. You can say, yes, I'm releasing the code, but I don't want to deal with any of these things. And that's maybe an extreme, but the point is you can even do that. So you can choose how you want to deal with this stuff. And I get it that some maintainers get trapped into this system and don't fully realize how much control they have over their own experience. And so, for example, a while ago, there was this blog post by somebody who was apologizing because he could not spare any time. He could not maintain his open source project for a while, and a bunch of issues and pull requests had piled up, and he was apologizing. And yeah, there's no need to apologize. But at the same time, I get that some people might get trapped into this system. Fine. But at the same time, what is the good thing about making becoming a showbiz thing? In my opinion, making becoming showbiz is the key for liberating open source in a sense. So it used to be, and maybe it still is, that if you want to make money from the software that you're making, you have to sell the software somehow, right? And if your software is open source, good luck with that. It's tough to sell open source. So then people started thinking, well, we could sell services around the open source software, right? The open source software you get for free, but then you can pay me for support. And I guess that kind of works. Some people can make it work for themselves, but it's not great, right? If you're working, for example, on developer tools, you're not going to sell developer tools very easily. And also support. It's hard to sell support for developer tools. Developers don't have budget usually in companies. I mean, you know how it is. There are a ton of reasons why it's hard. So the consequence of this is that there's a bunch of open source projects out there who become popular. They have maintenance costs, but there is no business model that works for them. If you fully realize that making is showbiz, though, there is another door that can open when it comes to making your open source work sustainable. And that is videos like this one, blog posts, all types of extra content that you can make, and then maybe people are willing to pay you for, that is related to your open source project. So you're not selling the software anymore, and you're not selling a support service related to the software anymore. But what you're selling is your competence and your experience. And I think the blog post also does a good job at mentioning the emotion connected to the open source project. It might seem a bit too vague, but so go read the blog post. I think it makes sense. But the idea is, let me give you an example. A while ago, there was, I'm gonna say the wrong name, I know for sure, but I think it's Simon Wilson. Well, anyway, one of the creators of Django, the Django web framework for Python, has started offering paid office hours. So you can pay, it doesn't even cost that much, you can pay a bit to have I don't remember, half an hour, 20-minute call with him where you can discuss a software problem. I think it can be on any subject. It doesn't have to be related to any of his projects, but especially if you're using one of these projects, that could be useful. And I think and the point is that it's a bit different than offering support. It's something a bit more connected to the personality. This video is gonna give me money through YouTube, not much, but that's another way. Twitch is another example. Mailing lists, for example, some people run mailing lists. So these are all things where your audience can offer to pay for the work that is going behind an open source project, but not paying for a license. It's a different way, and in my opinion, it's very liberating because it really solves the problem of it's a way of making sustainable software projects that without this would otherwise be not sustainable at all. Think of a small JavaScript library, a small developer tool. It's hard to sell this stuff. So I think there is a lot that we can gain from acknowledging that making is show business, and by embracing the show business part of it. Of course, it's easy for me to say this because I've been doing this for a while, so I guess that's nothing new coming from me, I guess. But I'm not particularly good at showbiz, whatever that is. I'm working through all the things, and I don't know. For me, it's been a great experience. I'm having a lot of fun learning all this stuff, and the more I learn about it, the more I realize how desperately we need this in computer science / information technology. So all in all, I'll be honest. I wasn't really part of any open source community in the 90s. I was born in 1990, so maybe I'm a bit too young for that. But whatever was there in the past, things haven't improved. But I think that if we wield this new power well, it might be totally worth it, giving up what we had before for what we can gain in the future. I think it would be awesome if all major or all interesting open source projects ended up being something that ties into some type of entertainment, some type of showbiz, and everything becomes sustainable that way. Instead of the usual voices that cry that nobody is paying for the development of Babel, even Babel, the JavaScript transpiler thing. And yeah, it's a problem that nobody's paying for it, but at the same time, you have to find a way to make things work. And this might be a way of making things work. So I think this is also something that I want to think about more. And I didn't talk about the book at all, but maybe on the horizon there may be the possibility to do more about it. But I'll leave any more concrete announcement once all the pieces fall into place. So thank you very much for watching, and make sure to catch the Showtime episode on July 10th, because we are gonna have two pretty nice talks, and both have interesting showbiz implications. Not just because they're on Showtime, but because one talk is about putting Zig on the radar by participating in a drag race organized by a fairly popular YouTuber. And two, the other talk is about Tiger Beetle, a distributed database written in Zig. And on top of the fact that that's also going to be another interesting open source project connected to Zig, which will have its own interesting issues when it comes to sustainability, but also because that talk is going to be the stepping stone for another interesting talk and announcement that is going to land in September on Showtime. So make sure to check that out too. Well, that's it for me. Thank you very much, and see you on the next one.